Here's one of a dozen of my fieros. Yay. I did a 2.5 liter swap to this thing. That's right, I went backwards. This car had a 2.8 in it. It now has a 2.5. I did a 40 horsepower delete. uh, but yeah. So, a little story on this car. I picked this up. If you go back several years on my YouTube channel, I think I got a video of this car when I first got it. It ran and drove. The motor was junk though. If after it would run for like 5 minutes, it'd lock up. Once it would cool down, it'd spin again. Supposedly the motor was a fresh rebuild, but whoever assembled the engine didn't do it right. We're assuming the bearings on that engine was the wrong size bearings, so when the motor would start to heat up and the clearances would change a little bit, they were not spec'd properly. Either he went like too big of bearings, I'm assuming, or something. And then it started leaking, like because of them trying to run it and stuff like that. I don't know if they overheated it and started having a bad head gasket. It started using coolant and it was a nightmare of an engine. So out with that engine. Then I'm like, well, I don't care anyways. I'm doing a supercharged 3.8 swap to it. Which actually, that motor is actually in my other Fiero. So that kind of sums up that. So I ended up picking up a 2M5 Fiero, dirt cheap, ran and drove, no brakes, and the body was shot, which is the car that engine came out of. So I kind of did this. This is going to be like my fuel mileage car, my fuel sipper. That's one reason why I'm kind of doing it, and it was cheap. Ain't got much money right now. A lot of other projects, a lot of other issues that are just absorbing my money at ridiculous rates. So it was like, we got to do something for mileage, and this is what I came up with. And the actual swap itself cost me no money. Well, almost no money. Other than replacing that right there with, I believe it's from Rodney Dickman's, for the cable shifter. And I think that's the only money I spent. Everything else came off the parts car. I mean, I'm going to have to spend a little bit more money on it. Some of the differences I didn't even realize was like some of the vacuum lines ran different, which the metal lines ran different. Throttle cables are different. Coolant hoses are different. Radiator hoses are different. The metal tubes under the car are different. And that I didn't realize until after I was doing a swap. And of course, this side, no problems. It's that side. So actually, you got a different hose instead of changing the tube. Because to change the tube, you got to drop the front suspension to try to get it out in one piece. And the other car, that would have been like a 3-week process to do that. So we ended up getting this hose here. It damn near fits perfect, except I got to do a little bit of like finagling, trying to get it so it's not rubbing. It's like resting on the bleeder screw for the slave cylinder, and it's just going to eventually wear a hole in it. But if anyone else wants to go backwards, here's the part number for the hose. I still got to put my interior back together too. So that hose fit perfect. The changing the throttle cable was a pain in the butt. You basically got to rip out your entire center console to do it. And that was kind of a pain. What else? So that didn't cost me any money. It's everything else right now that's costing me money. Like, the front brakes locked up. The rear brakes, the hoses were shot. So I got the back brakes capped for now. And then that happened. Yay! And for whatever reason, the last time I tried driving the car in here, and the motor didn't want to stay running. So I have no clue what the hell that's about. Because it ran and drove great. prior to the brakes locking up. And throttle cable. That is no good. So I actually rigged up this little thing here. Actually, I can now tear this apart. It's cool enough. This came off of a cheap eBay dual carb throttle return kit right here. That was for like the Edelbrock carbs, where they go up in the top loop. It links the two together for when you're running dual carbs. And ended up modifying it, shrinking it down a little bit, and drilling out the center, and it fits perfect. So now I can actually get my throttle linkage working properly. So that's what that's about. I'm debating on change. I gotta do it. I'm not debating. I have to do it. Coolant hose. During the swap, there is a metal line that runs around on the inside, and when I had the V6 in here and I pulled the V6 out, I took out everything because I painted it up, kind of cleaned it up in this back corner here where she started getting some surface rust. So I cleaned it up, kind of take care of it before it becomes a problem. And that's why the battery tray is actually cut out of it, because the battery tray was rotted out, which isn't a big deal because I got a relocation kit for the front of the car. So that has nothing to do with the swap, more so the car itself. And I already have that, so the only thing is I'm just hoping I have a long enough battery cable floating around. But when I took that out, the 4-cylinder must have leaked, and they ran this coppered pipe all the way around, and it just rubs on everything, and that's just going to be a problem. That's not going to last. So I am actually planning on undoing the fitting under here and then going to run a longer hose and loop it around this way to the heater core lines. So that is the plan with that, because I want to keep it low, because if I swing it up too high, I'm going to get air in it. I'm never going to bleed the air out. So yeah, that is a little update on this 86 Fiero, no longer a GT. And I got to find a passenger taillight, which is a nightmare because they want your firstborn child for them. Don't know what I'm going to do about that. And that steering wheel's got to change. I hate the 4-spoke. I love the 3-spoke. So I got it. I think I got one floating around. So got enough parts over there. That right there, all of that, starting from up there all the way down to the floor, is all Fiero parts. There's miscellaneous random interior pieces. You can see a 2.8 intake on top. Some inner stone covers, just everything. There's a couple center consoles sitting right there. I'm running out of shelf room for Fiero parts. And then that's my 86 Skyhawk T-Type, which is pretty sad. Which actually is something I want to start. So we'll just talk about that this quick second here. That is off my V8 truck project. But that motor needs to go to a machine shop and have a machine shop look at it, because the bearings in the crank are toast. And that was a low mileage motor. The guy just had it rebuilt, so I don't know if the guy never changed the oil in it, or ran the wrong type of oil, or whatever. But the bearings don't look too bad. The crank is scored pretty bad. So, and you cannot find parts for that engine. Because it's turboed, the 1.8 Brazilian, or the Brazilian 1.8 turboed 4-cylinder with a 4-speed manual. I don't know if it's the exact same transmission that's in the Fiero behind me or not. But yeah, kind of some of the stuff I got going on. There's a oil pump for a 3000 GT. Yeah, that was a project I'm hoping to start tackling this winter and get this back together, because I completely forgot how it goes back together. So It's been sitting for a couple of years now. Kind of focused on other things. And now I kind of want to get back to this because it'd be nice to have this going. So, yep.